I was given this topic, and I was thinking like, okay, I'm going to share my story about, well, how did I end up actually founding the company Amara Collaboration, and then look at what do I think conscious entrepreneurship is, and then really concentrate on kind of like my own developmental journey through this, and kind of the struggles that I've faced, and also in the end some irony that and some insights that I had. But to kind of start with is that I used to work and kind of show up as a trendy ad agency executive. And so I was working, this is a few of the brands that I was working with, doing marketing campaigns, doing digital services, doing some brand renewals. And I found, I really loved it. It was a lot of fun. There is a lot of excitement to kind of go in and do the design, work with the people with really long days. And so there's a lot of adrenaline and kind of the kicks of that. And I enjoyed it for a long time, like 6 years. I was before that in the IT industry, when this IT bubble, when it was called new media, 98 to 2002, then 6 years at Hassan & Partners. And then I was the CEO at a digital agency that was not doing very well. And then we did, in 2 years, actually turn it around and go from a place where people wanted to leave from there to a place where people really, really loved to come into work, and we were doing good business, and we actually changed the strategy completely and were able to go according to that strategy. But I started to have some problems with myself, some problems with my integrity, and I had this idea that I had all these values of like what I want to see in the world, and that was not completely aligned with what I was actually working on. So I was working on helping to sell and market the things that I did not want to see more of in the world. And the first year or so, I was saying, well, actually, I am making a difference because all these people that are working here, they feel better when they walk in the door every morning. So they feel different than they did like a year before I came or so. But then at some point, I was feeling like, no, I'm really, really fooling myself here. This is not what I want to do. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I went to this conference in Canada, and it was the Authentic Leadership in Action, ALIA. And I think I was one of the only kind of corporate people. It was 180 people and maybe like a handful of people actually working in a company. And the first night I was sitting in a table, and this man, Bill Torbert, he was, as he does, he was saying, okay, let's all share a story and tell about yourself. And I told the story about the company I was working with, and I was still very excited, and I loved the people, and I've always loved my work, actually. And so I told this story, and he came up to me and he said, do you have any idea how rare it is to lead a transformation that you have just described? And I was like, no, transformation in my vocabulary was more something that is like a movie, the Transformers or whatever. So I was like, well, I don't know what a transformation. I just like go a lot according to my intuition and just do the thing. And oftentimes make myself kind of a little bit in an embarrassing position. And so he said to me, well, maybe you could be interested in what I have been researching the past 40 years. And so I took his track, and that was a 5-day conference, and I was completely kind of, bought into it. And it is around adult development. It is around the stages of development that we can go through. And if we go back like 50 years, people thought that you are going to develop as a human up until you're about 20, maybe 25. But after that, you're not going to cognitively develop anymore. And Bill was one of the first people that there had been some research that showed that, well, actually you can develop after that. And it was more in the field of it was started with young girls coming into their adulthood. And Bill was like, okay, we know people develop, but so what? Does this have any correlation to leadership? And what he found was then that, well, actually it does. And it has to do with leadership, especially when we talk about change and transformation. So the capability of transforming yourself gives us possibly the capability and capacity to then transform our surrounding and even organizations. And it is pretty rare that people develop to those stages, but it is possible both that can happen through life, like you do nothing about that, or that you actually take on a journey to consciously develop this kind of capacity. And for some reason, I had kind of developed, without knowing, this kind of capacity. And so it was a big relief for me, because I'd always felt that I'm a little bit odd. I don't think like other people think, and people that didn't feel like a benefit to me at all. It felt like people looking at me like, who are you and what do you think? And I was wondering if me and the other people were in the same kind of meetings, because they were seeing other things than I was seeing. And so it was a big relief for me, and I think that was why I wanted to really learn a lot more about this. So, and it is about development. It is about how we change our worldview, how we interpret things. And maybe some of you have had this experience of like, one day you wake up and like, oh my God, the things that I'm thinking and doing, they look completely different today than they did before. And how was I staying in one kind of belief back then? And so I like this picture because it does kind of show this.